Hello, everyone, and welcome to One Liners, series centered around key influencers and players in the performance marketing space. My name is Joey Liner of Liner Connections. Good to be here with you all. I haven't been on for a bit, so I'm excited to be back on. I have a really special guest this week, and also just want to ask if you can like or subscribe my LinkedIn page or YouTube page. It definitely helps me continue to grow my presence and footprint. But here today, I got my good friend Tom Wozniak. Tom, say hello.
Hey, Joey, how's it going, man?
It's good to see you, brother. It's really good to see you. Tom and I ran into each other at Digital Media Solutions, where I was the Chief Revenue Officer, DMS. When I first started working at DMS, I knew nothing about really affiliate marketing or email, which has, when I really became when I got into the thick of performance marketing and realizing that calls where I grew up was just such a big form or mechanism for high intent hand raisers, I didn't realize that outside of search, which we all know typically is the highest form of intent you can receive when somebody goes in and types it, um, email, such a strong channel for customer acquisition campaigns. And I learned a lot from the team at W4, renamed DMS Performance Ad Network. You, Optismo Technologies, were such a key partner that I got to organically kind of learn about compliance email and hash suppression and so forth. And so I want to thank you just for helping be one of the great leaders within our space. And I know we're going to talk about that today. But before we do all that, just tell us a little bit about yourself, man. I'm happy to have you on the show. Tell us about yourself and how you got into performance marketing.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate the opportunity to jump on with you. I know we've had opportunities to chat in person, over the years, and had the opportunity to talk about this a little bit. This, just in the last couple of weeks, this came up. It's so
Yeah.
super excited to be here. But yeah, I got think back to how it all started, right? I guess really my marketing career goes back to when I was like 5 or 6 years old, because my dad owned a direct mail company. And so I was licking stamps and licking envelopes, back in the old school days of marketing. So yeah, so literally working in the mines for at best minimum wage, or just hey, food on the table, because I'm way too young to get paid anyway.
Yeah.
But so I kind of cut my teeth on marketing, really really early, and then from a digital marketing standpoint, I really started getting into it in the late 1990s, when it was sort of starting to take off. My first full-on digital marketing company was in, I guess, 1999. We were a catalog company, but we got acquired by the Whole Foods company, which everybody's heard of.
Oh,
And their goal back in the day was to build the Amazon.com of the healthy living industry. And it didn't last super long. They were great about, they knew how to make grocery stores super profitable and fantastic, but they really had no idea how to build a digital company. But I got lots of funny stories from going back then, some of which I really can't share on a podcast because they're just a little weird. But that's where I first kind of started cutting my teeth on digital, and then moved into working for one of the very early lead gen companies around 2000, and loved the space. Even went through that first dot-com bubble burst in 2001, but wanted to stay in and around the space, and have pretty much ever since, whether it's been true digital marketing or doing some ad tech, a few startups there, and those kind of things. But then in the affiliate marketing space, I've been in this arena since I think about 2005. So it's been a minute.
OG, as they say, and we'll talk about that in a second because I was referenced in your guys' videos. But I wanted to say I can relate to working for a family business, and it's really helped our careers. My mom owned a ladies' clothing store in
Mm.
Baltimore, and when I was young, I was tagging jewelry. I was helping her. Ultimately, she put me in the register. I got to
Yeah.
ring in and run receipts and help her with her accounting as I grew up. So but it taught me so much about
Yeah.
business and sales. And really, where I got to thrive there was I traveled with her to the Jacob Javits Center. She had in New York. That's where they had all their fashion shows where she did all of her buying, but she met all of her suppliers, and I got to watch her negotiate, and I just learned so much. I'm sure you did the same within your family's mail business. You just pick up things, and if you want to learn and you want to thrive off that, it works. It really does. So that's really cool, dude.
Yeah, yeah. I think, you're right. I think the lessons you learn from that, just especially from an entrepreneurial standpoint, you get a little wired that way. By, you kind of have to. But I look back on that and yeah, I mean, that formed a lot of the foundation of just, kind of work ethic and just sort of who I
Yeah.
am as a professional.
Oh yeah, brother. Hell yeah. And speaking, so you guys, Optismo, tell us a little bit about Optismo technology. One thing I did, I rewatched your client videos, or I wouldn't call them client videos, they're Optismo videos, but the theme was just here. There's a great connection between the people that you work with. And, you and I actually talked about a little bit in our pre-show just before recording about how, a lot of companies have the formalities of doing testimonials or just a corporate video. You guys had some fun with your videos, but it really shows the connection you have with the people that you work with. And the common theme I heard was you guys do everything right. So tell us a little bit about the company and how you guys are doing everything right.
Well, for sure. Well, first, thanks. And we
Yeah.
sure try to. I guess that's what I can say. We really try to do everything right. Yeah, it's our goal has always been as a company, to provide that combination of, the best technology possible, but to then add to that with just you get to work with the most experienced, dedicated, passionate people that you could ever ask for. And that's what I think has always made us unique. And so you talk about the videos, and that's I think just um, just an extension of that,
Yeah.
where we decided, hey, we're marketers, hey, we should do some branding. Let's do a video series. And like every company does, and it could be meet the team, or it could be, client testimonials and highlights and things. And we've all seen a lot of those videos in, lots of industries. And one of the typically common themes is they're pretty boring. Like you don't
Yes.
necessarily want to watch a lot of them. I mean, they're good for what they are. I guess they're informational, but you're not going to sit back and have a lot of fun watching some of those sort of corporate videos that come out. And so we very clearly were like, no, no, no. If we're going to do this, let's make it us. And so we have the incredible good fortune of having a ridiculously overly talented videographer who came to us because he grew up with our CEO and he's a former touring musician, uh, music producer, and video talent. He's one of the most ridiculously just like talented people I know. Kind of
Yeah.
like makes you feel like God, I'm just not really good at anything, But so he brought this skill, of shoots and telling us what to do and then doing the editing and everything and making everything. As I've always said, he makes us all look, 10 years younger and like 20 IQ points smarter. But when we started working with him on the videos, we just said, again, let's make these vibey, maybe as a
Yeah.
word, like let's make sure it's got some what we call OPTIZMO sizzle. And we didn't necessarily know what that was when we first started, but we quickly discovered what it was. And a common, like response to one of John's videos that he'll send to Chris and I is, like he'll send that first cut and be like, can you amp it up a little bit? Can we, how about more? Can we turn it up to
Yeah.
11? And he learned very quickly. He's like, all right, if you guys want me to, I can absolutely do that. So we've had a ton of fun with those videos over the years. And it's been a cool opportunity to sit down with our clients and partners and
Yeah.
friends in the industry, really, and kind of talk about everything that's going on. Whether it's the obviously fun stuff that's happening in our companies or in our personal lives, what's going on in the industry, or just fun stuff. And I think from our standpoint, that's been I can't tell you that our videos have, driven us any revenue, from as a
Yeah.
marketer, performance marketer, but I know that we get great comments from them and people bring it up all the time. Certainly our, current clients and partners do, but we hear from people who we haven't worked with yet sometimes be like, oh yeah, I've seen these really cool videos you guys do, and that's part of how I got to know who you are. And so if that can help us, you know, let people know again who we are as people, as a
Yes.
company, that's just huge.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you run a technology platform business, the people behind it are really the power, the personality, the connection. You have to feel good about who you're working with. The culture is infectious, to your partners, to your clients. And so, tell us a little bit for folks that don't know you or haven't worked with Optismo. Tell us a little bit about Optismo, what you guys, obviously we've been talking a little bit about email here, but really what you guys specialize in and what you're known for.
Absolutely. Give you the 10,000 foot, kind of elevator pitch. But yeah, at Optismo, we're the leader in email suppression list management. And what does that mean? Effectively, we work with our clients to help them ensure that all of their particularly performance and third-party email programs are compliant with all the laws, mainly here in the United States. Biggest piece of that, as I think most people know, is you've got to give people a way to opt out. If they get your email and say, "Hey, no thanks, I don't want it anymore," you've got to give them an easy way to click on a link and provide that feedback, and then you've got to honor that within a defined period based on the Can-Spam Act here in the States. And it's all fairly straightforward, which is fantastic, but yet there's a technical hurdle there, especially for companies if they're using third parties in their email program. It just gets more complicated. So we are the go-to technology platform to automate that process. Hopefully take it off our clients' plates or their list of things they have to think about on a daily basis, and make it easy for them. And then when they do have questions, or when they want to add to their services, we, as I said, we want to have that team that they can rely on, that unlike we all work with tech companies in our personal lives, professional lives. And I think a common theme is, you lob a request into you put in a support ticket or a request for chat, and you hope to hear back in maybe a day, or just you hope to hear back. Would be nice
Yes.
in some companies. And for us, typical client would tell you they'll hear back within 30 minutes or an hour, and they don't hear back
Awesome.
from customer service agent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that doesn't know anything about their business. They hear back from Brian or from Gina or from Jake, who they've already spoken with because they know their biz and can help them, right off the bat. And
Yep.
it's just funny how it sounds simple, but you focus on making your clients successful and happy, giving them the support they need, and being friendly about it, through the whole thing. There's always challenges you
Yeah,
go through, but when
absolutely.
you build that kind of collaborative relationship and supportive relationship with your clients, God, just it goes so far to building a successful company. And just like you alluded to, at the end of the day, people like to do business with people they like. We all do.
Yes.
And so we've always felt that that's part of the core of what Optismo is a group of people that you like to do business with.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys back up everything, you just said. So like shit happens in the performance marketing space every day. We know that. Like that's the reality of when you're dealing with constant back and forth between publishers and advertisers, just shit's gonna happen. And so how do you deal with it? And really relying on partners that you trust that can help you through it. You work through it because it's that's how we all operate and scale. Is you got to work through some of the challenges. It's not just all unicorns and cartwheels. And so I know I know you guys, like your clients and partners are your biggest testimonials and advocates, because they've been through some of those challenges, and you've helped them through it. Every client relationship is unique, and I saw it firsthand when I was at DMS, where we were working with a lot of brands, and they needed to make sure that their lists were protected just as much as the mailers do. And so good segue to my next topic, which is a lot of brands, and I learned this as CRO. I'm sure your sales team deals with this, Jake and team. Like a lot of brands don't know the do's and don'ts or the ins and outs of email. Like a lot of people look at email as, oh, I just need to email my list that I've acquired. There's this whole universe of third-party customer acquisition email. So high level, if we're talking to some brands here viewing the show, or we're out at LeadsCon meeting new brands, like how do you guys explain the kind of the do's and don'ts at a high level of third party email?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you make a great point. It's like, email has been consistently one of the highest performing digital marketing channels going back decades. I've always thought of it. I mean, it kind of is. It's the grandfather of digital marketing. The first X email, I think is dated back to something like 1978. Most of us are like, there was email in 1978. I mean, none of us were using it, but it's like, but it existed in a very different form than now
Yeah.
in some ways, but I mean, it's still email.
Yeah.
So, you think about that it goes so far back, and, it's just stood the test of time. So at least from the pure standpoint of like just email marketing, I think most people understand that value at kind of an intrinsic level. We'll have email, despite every generation is like, oh, this generation doesn't use email the way they used to, and then they get a little older, and all of a sudden they do. So someday I'm sure that's going to change, but I don't
Yeah.
anticipate that anytime soon. But I think you pointed out that third-party email is where things get a little more complicated. If somebody just wants to, build a house file and mail their newsletter, that's pretty straightforward. And there are, platforms like, Constant Contact and MailChimp and, HubSpot, that will
Cool.
help you do that and often automate a massive amount of that. And you don't have to think about too much of it. You kind of worry about your content, and the rest, let's say, takes care of itself. But to some users, it kind of seems like it takes care of itself. But when you get into third-party email and you bring partners into the mix, so whether you've got one outside partner who's mailing on your behalf, or 100 or 1,000, it adds a new challenge. And I think one of the biggest things about that, and it kind of goes back to just business in general, is, and it gets back to doing business with people you like, is you want to make sure that you're partnering with good folks. And so that would be, if talk do's and don'ts, I think the biggest do is to do your due diligence and find good partners to help you step into this performance and third-party partner email ecosystem, because it can be so tremendously profitable and successful if you've got the right partners in the mix, and they can help you scale. And whether that's identifying a great network to join with relationships with lots of really successful and high quality email marketers, or working with a digital agency that can again kind of help you step into that realm. I think
Yeah.
that's a huge key. And then where a company like OPTIZMO comes in, it's like, it's great, you've got all the partners who can email for you, but then you need to also have the right technology players in the mix to make sure you're monitoring everything that's going on,
Right.
that again, compliant, and that everybody's following the rules. Because with the way in email and in many channels it works, is liability can flow right back to that advertiser if your partners are not following the rules. So and there are obviously other companies in the space that help you with different pieces of that, whether it's fraud
Yeah.
protection, folks, things along those lines. But I really think that's the biggest piece to it. And then just educating yourself, because again, third party email is different, and so
Yes.
you see it in the email universe where there are conferences that you go to that are more in the traditional CRM house file email vein,
Right.
and they just don't even seem to be talking the same language as performance marketers sometimes. So
Right.
I think it really helps if a company is going to get into the mix in third party email. You start going to shows like Affiliate Summit and Lead Generation World and MailCon, that you're going to run into more and more companies that are focused on this side of the industry. And again, get to know those good players.
Well said. All good advice. If you surround yourself with companies that you trust, that you really know, that have the experience, the background, they're tech forward. It's a combination. Like I said, it's not a magic pill for one partner is going to help you. But brands really, if they take the time to do their due diligence and actually build out the program effectively, we've seen major Fortune 100 brands, right, crush it on the email third party side. So um, that's awesome, man. They're very, very helpful tips, and I know you collaborate with a lot of those partners out there
We do.
too. So which is really, really cool to see. As we all like to advance, working together. 1+1 is 3
Yep.
in performance marketing. So very cool. Macro level, especially for helping brands understand too, diversification, we all know for your channels is key. Email's had its ups and downs over the last couple of years. I mean, I remember at DMS, and when I joined a CRO in 19 and 20, we were gushing. I mean, like we were breaking numbers, breaking quarterly goals like it was insane. And then 2021, and it's like like there was a smack, of a halt. I think it was Yahoo something, maybe it stopped at the time, but um, is that typically how like certain domains or certain how do things go fluctuate like that back and forth, and where how's it been the last year or so, with volume compared to the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, it's a great point. And I guess it goes back to, again, the fact that it's been around so long,
Yeah,
that any marketing channel that has that kind of staying power is gonna, have a little bit of this over time. And some of that is just, in digital, sure, early on it was email. And
yeah,
then you had display and you had, and then SEO. And I mean, I'm not putting these even in order, but, and then
right,
pay-per-click. And then, social came along, and now we got influencer marketing. And, so there's always a bright, shiny new object, for marketers and brands to get all excited about, like, oh, hey, what's our, I sat in on these meetings at companies I've been at in the past where it's like, oh, what's our influencer marketing strategy? And teams like, we don't have one because we don't think that even works for us. No, we need to have it's like social and Snapchat. I remember when that came out, it was, and I was working at a big tech company, and like, how are we leveraging Snapchat? Like, we're what? Like
yeah,
we're not leveraging Snapchat. I mean, we can look into it, but we got a lot of other things that work. Do
yeah,
we really need to, again, get distracted,
yeah,
by every single new opportunity that comes along? And it's like sometimes they come along and they're real. Facebook, when
right,
it started, you might have been like, okay, whatever. I don't know what this is. Guess what? It's still around, and and it's still very much a very,
still
very big,
cranking.
pretty
Yes,
big thing. So email has had to weather the storm of, there's a marketing budget and it gets spread out across all the channels and all the different things that a company does, and you got an awful lot of options. Much like
right,
just the media landscape is so fractured. And you want to get in front of your audience, and now that audience's attention is split in just so many different ways. We got messages bombarding us all day long, literally. As long as we're awake, there's there's our phone, there's
yeah,
the computer screen in front of us, there's the TV, whatever it is. We're getting advertised and marketed to constantly. So I think naturally, any channel kind of goes through its waves, and an email has, but it always comes back. And I think a big piece of that has been, again, the performance, that when you evaluate and look at the ROI, that the cost of sending email comparatively is relatively low,
mhm,
compared to most channels. Certainly you think about a thing like a TV ad, it's nothing like that. And the incremental cost, once you've built a program of adding another email or another 1,000 emails, is, often inconsequential or not even noticeable, so you can scale it as long as those email addresses are available to you. Your audience is out there. But another challenge beyond just, the market doing its thing is both the regulatory environment and then the technological environment. Because as you pointed out, Yahoo,
yeah,
back in, again, was that around 2021 or 2020? I can't remember.
yeah,
It's happened more than once, so I never know which one we're talking about. But you know, the ESPs will make a change, and say,
ah,
okay, we're going to make it harder to get into the inbox. And so all of a sudden, email marketers that were killing it, just like, oh, all my emails get delivered, and I, generate all this revenue because we've got tons of orders coming in for all my clients. And then all of a sudden, Yahoo makes a switch that they might tell people about or might not,
yeah,
and even if they tell people about it, they don't necessarily tell you how to address it. They'll just say, yeah, we made some changes, and, to make the inbox more consumer friendly, whatever. And it becomes more of a challenge for marketers. And so that's always been, a bit of a moving target. Is, it's like, okay, as a marketer, how do I make sure my emails remain engaging and get delivered and get in front of my audience? And let alone the fact that you're just competing with, how many other marketers in that inbox trying to get your, get people
yeah,
to open and respond to your email. But I think that combination of, the market itself and then technology just potentially seemingly pulling the rug out from under you from time to time. And then you got to, take a step back and you try to figure it out again. And typically the marketers with staying power, they figure it out,
right,
either, again, when can spam passed in, 2003, that was a big thing for marketers, but
right,
they fairly quickly went, okay, here's the set of rules. This is great. You've given us guidelines. And so we're going to adhere to those. We may have to change our policies to do it, but they all fairly, quickly learned how, and at least, the successful ones did. And so this is kind of similar. And so, we'll go through these cycles where things just, again, whether it's, the government passes a law, or,
Right.
the FTC puts some new guidelines in place, or a tech platform, decides to do something behind the scenes, and you adapt. And I think
Yes.
that's, if there's any, like true quality that we can say about digital marketing in general and digital marketers, is that we're adaptable, because we have to be,
Amen.
so yeah, so you see what, okay, things have changed. How do I shift what I'm doing to, to overcome this new challenge and to adapt to it, and then move on and succeed? And then 6 months down the road, something else changes. And so it's never
That's right. You
used to it.
got to adapt. You have to. And it's the same thing too. You called out like early examples is, look, what if Facebook, we've seen over the last couple of years, they've had to change their leads platform, right? Still you adapt. Like they change the privacy settings or how you can filter for a new customer. Google changes their algorithms, right? You think you've done great building your presence
Yep.
on page 1 or page 2, and then ooh, you got to diversify. You got to know that when we face these challenges, performance marketers, we're going to adapt. And the ones that obviously can be more focused on adapting to that change are going to be more successful, I think, as we've seen in evidence there too. You touched on some regulatory stuff. So the industry right now, performance marketing, is facing some headwinds. A lot of the news out there has been on FCC and robo AI. That's really been, you constantly see that out there in our space. It's at a lot of the trade shows, a lot of the webinars. LinkedIn's community is talking about it. But you're a post that actually you had with Amanda Ferris. Both of you guys are OGs. You were talking about some of the email regulations that, some fresh email regs. So can you give us some little high level understanding of some of the new regs that are coming in through email?
Sure. And this actually kind of calls right back to what we were talking about with Yahoo, because
Yeah.
it involves Yahoo again. But specifically in the email space, Gmail and Yahoo kind of teamed up a few months back toward the end of 2022, and came out with a new set of guidelines, requirements for large scale email marketers, let's say.
Yeah.
We call them bulk email senders, whatever term you want to
Right.
use. But their general framework was, if you're sending on average 5,000 plus a day into our platforms, we want you to follow these rules if you want to consistently get the opportunity to be delivered into inboxes. And they said the key parts of those rules are that you really need to fully authenticate your sending domains and IP addresses. And then that you need to implement a one-click unsubscribe. And if you dug a little deeper, that really meant you needed to implement the list unsubscribe header that's kind of baked into their platforms. And then the third piece of it was you need to keep your spam complaint rate low. And they really want everybody to target a 0.1% rate as sort of like, that's where you want to be, but they would call out that they don't want you to be above 0.3 for any period of time. Now, in a lot of those guidelines are a little, I won't say vague, maybe is the wrong term, but they're specific, but also, again, that sort of like, don't be above this for a period of time. I don't know what period of time that is. And the like 5,000 a day, is that on average, or is that you hit 5,000 one day, so now you are in this group? They were very unclear on that. And even the one click unsubscribe, it was kind of funny because several of us would read the blog post from Gmail about, here's the new requirements about one click, and I'd read it one way and somebody else in the industry would read it entirely differently. And I know even in the traditional email space, there was a bit of a freak out when it was read to suggest that, wait a minute, every unsubscribe link has to be one click. Well, what about preference centers? Where I click on it and then I go to a page and I can say, I can control my subscription per se. You've got newsletters and it's like, how many times do you want to hear from us? Or do you want to opt out from everything? Or do you want to only opt out from, these 5 brands, whatever it might be?
Yeah.
So there was a bit of concern among a lot of email marketers, not just third party, about how this would impact them. And I think then Google and Yahoo kind of clarified a bit and said, no, we're not saying you can't have a preference center. We're just saying we really want you to take advantage of this list unsubscribe header feature that we provide, and we're going to ask you to use it. And when people use that, yes, they're just unsubscribing right off the bat, and you're not sending them to a preference center. So we're seeing a lot of questions started to come up about it, like I said, and that prompted me to write a blog post for the PMA.
Yeah.
And that's actually what Amanda ended up sharing on LinkedIn, I think, that you mentioned. And she and I have talked about this a ton of times as well.
Yeah.
So it's the requirements were originally scheduled to click into place on February 1st of 2024. And so obviously there was a lot of like, whoa, hey, we don't have a lot of time to jump in front of this.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that Google and Yahoo got a lot of feedback from a lot of big brands that said, you know what, we may not be quite ready to meet all these requirements on day one. So what can we do about that? Because it was not overly publicized, but we saw them shift that date back to June. And it became more of a rolling thing, like, well, we're going to start implementing some of these requirements starting February, but really in June is when they're going to hit home. I'll be curious to see if that is really a hard date or if it gets pushed kind of again. I mean, I could see it going both ways. I kind of think of it in some ways like, cookie deprivation, where, the third party cookie, we're getting rid of that, in 6 months. And then 5 years later, hey, no, we're still getting rid of that in 6 months or, whatever. So,
Right.
but, kind of kidding aside, it's, Google and Yahoo, I think, trying to tighten things down, and say, hey, we want to make sure that if an email is getting into the inbox, that the senders are following best practices.
Yeah.
And some of those, we're going to, be more stringent even than the federal government is. For example, within that, the government doesn't say it has to be a one-click unsubscribe. And in fact, Google and Yahoo want that subscribe process or that unsubscribe processed within 2 days, as opposed to the 10 business days that the government gives you. So, again, I don't think any of this stuff is immensely challenging for technically savvy email marketers. I mean, for example, like folks who use our platform, the minute somebody unsubscribes, it's in the platform and typically is honored immediately.
Right.
And I think a lot of platforms, HubSpot, again, kind of you name it, MailChimp, works essentially the same way. Once you get that request, you opt them out. That's more best practice. So in some ways, they're formalizing a more stringent, requirement. But probably the biggest takeaway I've had from the whole thing, we've had a lot of conversations about this. It's come up on a panel discussion or two, and we're going to actually be doing some joint marketing and conversation, maybe a webinar with some partners of ours who their clients are asking about it. So it's certainly a topic of conversation, but going back to what we talked about with the adaptability of digital marketers, I've not heard anybody concerned about it to the point of like, oh my goodness, this is really like email, we're in trouble. It's like, no, okay, we have some new requirements to figure out. And, we as a platform looked at them and identified the one-click unsub, in the list unsubscribe header. Oh, okay, here's how this works with our system. And we'll just make sure that we give all of our clients proper instructions how to set it up so that we're still collecting the unsubscribes as we should. And it should be essentially seamless. Knock on wood, there's always technical things, but I think that's really, what it's looking like from our standpoint.
Yeah.
And I think, at the end of the day, most of the email marketers that I've talked to, they know they have to change some of the, they have to authenticate domains a little differently than they have, more stringently, engage the list unsub header, but haven't heard them, push back on it too much. And I'm like, okay, I get it. We'll make this, we'll get this figured out. I think in some ways the brands are a little more concerned about it because they're not always as you point out, they're not as tech savvy when it comes to email marketing. And so when they hear it's like authenticate our domains, DMARC, DKIT, what are these things? What do you, I'm not a technical guy. I'm just pushing a button on emails. So I think there's a little more concern there. And that's actually with some of the educational content we're going to be putting out is to help the folks who maybe aren't as email savvy and technically savvy in email to understand the new requirements and what they have to do, and hopefully recognize like, hey, this is doable. This is not certainly the end of email in any way. This is not going to be that, the every couple of years we see all the articles of like, well, email, it's,
Yeah,
it's going to come to an
it's
end. It's like,
done.
this year isn't going to be it. So
Yeah, no, man. So thank you for unpacking all that. I
sure.
really appreciate it. And I will share once we share the podcast, I'll share your blog post in the comments so folks can follow up and read through more thoroughly through. But I think it's a common theme from what our discussion today too is the educational impact that you guys provide and the partners that you work with are going to help everybody through this. Because you guys are in the thick of it. You're in between publishers, you're in between the deliverability, and you're in between the brand. And so all of these points come back and connect to you guys, which is you're right in the middle of it, and you work with partners that you guys said you'll do some informational, educational series, which I think is super helpful. And there's also a common theme with the FCC news too, is that nobody in performance marketing is really panicking saying, you know, the internet, digital performance marketing space is over. Look, we can't stop consumers from going online and shopping. That's just going to happen, whether it's through email, through search, but what the theme, at least from the FCC is you guys got to do a better job treating the consumer. And nobody's reputable who's reputable is going to argue that. We have gotten a little sloppy in the space, but I think this is where email can shine. I think especially like I said, there's been discussions over the years with emails with the viability is when we switch to one-to-one consent. And I want all the brands to hopefully pay extra special attention to this part is when you switch to one-to-one consent and you're inboxing somebody directly from a brand, it's very clear what the offer is. You have to follow all the unsub rules, the subject line rules, the domain send rules. It's very clear what the offering is. And so I'm hopeful, and I hope you and the team are too, that email can become, I mean, for as much more presence to grow within the space because of some of the FCC rulings, and shared lead model is going to, adapt. But I think the one-to-one through email will be great.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, and again, to, what we're talking about with the FCC's, I guess, upcoming changes, it seemed like they were going to be in place by now, but then they've been pushed back a little bit,
Yes,
really impacting lead generation. And that at a high level, the concept that if somebody's opting in to say auto leads, they've got to very specifically opt into each brand of
that's right.
auto insurance provider that
That's
will
right.
then be reaching out to them, as opposed to the way it used to be, which could be, you opt in and then there's a large disclaimer, and under there is 100 different, auto
The
insurance
marketing
brands.
partners
You
list.
really,
Yeah.
you don't notice them because
Yeah.
nobody reads the terms, unfortunately.
Nope.
What none of us do, let's face it, we're consumers and we know.
Yes.
But that shift, which should be more consumer friendly, to your point, one, yeah, the industry, I think people, had a momentary, oh boy, okay, this is going to change how we do things. But fairly quickly, people come around to, all right, well, we have to change the way we do things. But,
Yeah.
we're going to make our currently very viable and successful business viable and successful in this new, environment as well. And what we see, I think, on the email side, because largely this ruling was, at least initially, seemed to impact, again, it's more of a TCPA related
That's right.
ruling, so it's call centers and it's SMS. But on the email side, we kind of quickly looked at it and thought, this could be one of those where now email gets to take advantage of maybe a bit of a shift, where
Yes.
okay, it's going to be harder for us to market some of these, lead generation products and services over the call, the phone, and that'd be SMS or a call. Well, let's shift that to email, where we're also fully capable, because a lot of the companies that are doing, each of those channels, again, they're not just one channel, they're typically doing all of them. And so we thought common sense logically that this might lead to an increase in activity from email. And I think we've already seen that starting to bear itself out just from conversations we had at Affiliate Summit last month, where we're not the only ones that think that, and we're hearing from clients that it's like, oh yeah, we're going to be shifting more, or our clients are shifting more budget back to email
Yes.
just because of this change. Now, maybe
Yeah.
that changes once things get kind of settled. And again, you work through it, but In the short to medium term, I think it's great for email. I think this industry is just going to reap benefits from it. But another example of just, okay, change the regulatory environment, change the guidelines, and the industry will adapt and follow the new guidelines and find ways to continue to succeed. And I think that at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for, is like, we just, we want to help people follow the guidelines. And when the industry wants to do things the right way, by and large,
Right.
not everybody in the industry, but the good players. And those are the folks that, I know you want to work with, that we work with. And
Yeah.
and I think as long as, you know, companies like that make up the majority of it, one, the industry will continue to thrive by continuing to do things the right way.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go next, actually, too, is the future of Optismo, which you guys are working through now. Obviously, you just talked about some of the recent changes for email compliance. Is that really the focus for 2024 right now, is to making sure you kind of adapt and adhere to, we've used that word adapt a lot, the show,
We are.
adapt and adhere to these new potential standards. Any secret, without giving out any secrets or under the hood, but is some of the cool things that you guys are really trying to help throughout this year build out within the platform?
For sure. I think that has come up to become a focus for us this year. And just as you said, like education, that we knew that would be a key element of at least educating our clients and partners. But again, really even just starting an affiliate summit and ever since, we've had more and more conversations with partners in the industry that want to team up with us to get that message out to, their client base. And we're of course thrilled. It's like, great, yeah, we're, this is, you can't ask for better. I was having a conversation this morning where it's like, usually joint marketing is, one of those things where, as a vendor, we usually are doing the outreach, and it's like,
Yeah.
you reach out a lot of times to get companies, not that they don't want to do it, but it's like, it's a lift,
Yeah.
everybody's got more things on their plate that they can handle. And so you come to them with a joint marketing opportunity, and it isn't always, the top priority because they got other stuff going on. Now we've got lots of clients and partners coming to us saying, hey, we really want your help in doing this, these educational joint marketing kind of, collaborative projects. How can we get that started? So it's been kind of a fun, bit of a shift
I love it.
to start off the year. So that's certainly going to be a focus. And then just in general, I think one of the reasons for our longevity, being around since 2009, is that we are always working to enhance the platform. How can we make it more user friendly? What features and can we add to it that add benefit and value to our clients? And so even in the last couple of years, we've added more features around email monitoring
Yeah.
to just make it easier for brands to see what's happening within their third-party ecosystem.
Right.
And because a lot of that data is, it's attached to the unsubscribe. And so we provide more info on that allows them to hopefully identify a potential problem before it becomes a problem and address it, so that, you don't actually have to deal with a more serious compliance issue down the road. So we'll continue to do those. And we certainly have, a handful of products and services coming, in there where we'll be building out more of a suite of analytical products.
It's awesome.
Being super vague, but you get the idea that
No,
all
it's
that's
helpful.
coming. And then, we're also always interested, and I think this will be a year when we make some real headway on working with companies to use suppression files more strategically and take that beyond just, I say just, but beyond the opt-out.
Yeah.
We have many clients already that go well beyond that. You're suppressing current customers, you're using suppression files to actually do negative targeting, to make sure you're not marketing to certain people who maybe just don't fit your target audience. And sometimes it's easier to remove people from a list as opposed to add, to positively target them. So I think teaching people how to do that, or helping them discover how to do that with their own databases, is something that we're really focused on. And we've got, I think, some interesting projects coming down the road in those areas.
I love it, man. I've said it on my show before, and I've said it to folks that, our industry is kind of starved for innovation and development. I think it's part of it's coming out of the pandemic and just how the workforce is, how companies have run. But I look at you guys and a couple other very tech forward businesses that in our space that help lead this innovation and change. And it's a good intersection this year for you with the educational and content to really help the community be better, and so I'm excited to see that build and evolution. Like I said, I think so many people don't understand there's a lot of intelligence that you can thrive from and get from your unsubs.
Yep.
And that's it. There's a lot of tech out there that just does that only, just gives you unsubs, but there's like, why not learn more about consumer behavior and activity and get a better understanding of what's going on there so you can become a better brand, become a better marketer around email. So that's awesome, man. Where can people see you guys? Like, I know you talked about Affiliate Summit. What do you guys got on the radar, here coming up, LeadsCon or any of the other shows that are out there?
Yeah, as far as shows, we've been attending, both the affiliate summits, the standbys, the East and West for, going back to the beginning of OPTIZMO, and then I've been going to them for, and several of us have been going to them for longer than that. So, those are pretty much foundational in the industry after so many years. We'll certainly be at LeadsCon, that continues to be a strong one for us.
Yeah.
But I think some of the newer shows that have come out
Yeah.
in last 5 or so years have, some of them have really picked up steam, and whether that's again MailCon
Yep.
has been a great one in the really focused on the email marketing space, lead generation world. Again, kind of a sister
Yes.
event, if you will, to LeadsCon is
Yes.
great, and we've presented and sponsored and exhibited at both of those shows, and we'll
Yes.
continue to do that. Other things I know, and this is one it's very near and dear to my heart and to all of our leadership team at OPTIZMO, is Link Unite. And again, I know it's near and dear to you
Yes.
too, because I know you're a big supporter of what Amanda and
Yes.
Sarah are doing over there. So, we're excited for what they have going on and how we can continue to support
That's
them in
great.
their events every year. And then, outside of that, we always try to go to some new things, each
Yeah.
year. You've got to sort of the concept that if you're not trying new things, the old Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
I
One of
love
my
it.
favorite, one of my favorite marketing quotes, really, even though that's not where it came from. So we're going to check out. We've never been to PI Live before, but we've
Oh,
heard good
cool.
things
Yeah.
about it. So we're going down there,
It's in
and
Miami, right? Yeah.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
And so I'll be speaking at Email Innovations World in Phoenix in June.
Oh, wow.
Sure, it's
Holy
gonna be hot.
smokes.
The main thing I know, it's gonna be
June,
hot.
Phoenix. I lived there. I
Yeah,
moved to
yeah.
California.
Yes.
That's right. I love you,
Um,
Phoenix, but come on.
no, I know,
They
I
probably
know.
got a really
So
good deal at the resort or hotel that they're staying
they
at. But
were,
hey,
yeah,
I can't fault them.
that's
You
what I
know.
got. That's what I got to figure. But that one's a little more in the traditional email space. But it was an opportunity to speak in front of that audience, which
Yeah.
we all take advantage of. And then last year we started checking out certain vertical specific shows. That
Yes.
again, kind of whether it's automotive leads or finance, what have you,
Yeah.
and to see if that's an avenue for us to get in with the right people. And I think we'll continue to do that this year as well. And then we're going to get back and really go old school. We're going to get back to the old roadshow where,
Good.
we our team and just, head out to probably the first place we're going to go is West Coast. And we'll probably fly into San Diego and line up a bunch of meetings with clients and partners, and then drive up to LA, do the same thing there, and
Love it.
then fly up to San Francisco, San Jose, and do it there. So it'll be a fun week for us out in, out in Cali.
Yeah. Well, I hope to see you on. You guys can stop and see me along the
Definitely.
way, or I'll meet you somewhere. But it's shows are so important for us to collaborate, to get together, but for business development, because I mean, I think that's really where now, you know, a lot of us feel confident we can get a lot done, be very effective with our time over the course of a couple of days. Like you said, there's always been affiliate summit and
Yeah.
LeadsCon, but I think there are some of the newer shows that focus on vertical specific or product specific. We can't be at all of them, but I think it's good to know that the show directors are going to continue to grow them. And I definitely think you guys really appreciate your support for Link Unite and for some of the other good causes within our community. And it's just great to see you guys be a leader. You're such a good dude, man. Like I've glad that we've become friends. Like give the audience a little bit about like what do you like to do? You live in Colorado, right? You live in in Denver, right? So like tell us a little bit about, you a little bit before I let you go.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And thank you. I appreciate the kind words. But yeah, I do live outside of Denver, where today it's there's a snowstorm rolling in, and it's been getting darker
Oh.
and darker as we've been doing doing the Zoom call. So I'm hoping my little light has been. I'm just feeling the darkness growing behind me. So
Oh, you
hopefully
look great,
get on
man. You
camera.
look awesome.
But yeah, I mean, newest thing for us is like we talked about, and thankfully he did not make an appearance, but we have a new puppy, a little Bernese
Oh,
Mountain Dog named Winston, and he's asleep over in the next room. So he was great at not joining the Zoom call that we had going on. But yeah, outside of that, I guess I probably have a little bit of a reputation in the industry as kind of working out upon occasion. I
oh
do
yeah.
I do tend to start every single day at 5 a.m. by being at the gym and
Nice.
getting, hour and a half to 2 hour workout in, as much to try
Wow.
to keep myself staying young in this industry.
Yeah.
As you said, I've been here a minute, and
Yeah.
it's like you got to keep up with the kids, right?
Oh my
So,
God. And it's like
geez,
dog years, man. The
oh,
stuff that we deal with in our space, it puts a lot of pressure on us to age quicker. But you look great, man. You look awesome. You really
Well,
do. You
thank
look
you,
awesome.
thank you. So,
Yeah.
so that's a big thing for me, and I mean, it's as much mental as it is physical. It's just like starts my day off on in the right frame of mind, and I come back from the gym and I'm ready and raring to go.
Yeah.
And then this time of year, I mentioned snowstorm rolling in. I'm a big snowboarder,
Yeah.
so that I mean, couldn't ask for a better place to live with more options really for outdoor stuff all year round,
Yes.
whether you want to go rafting or hiking or mountain biking, whatever. But this time of year, the snowboard's out. And in fact, this weekend, I'm actually going to leave Colorado, but I'll be heading down to New Mexico, taking a board meeting trip. So our core
Wow.
leadership team here at OPTIZMO, which is Chris, Jake, myself, and Brian, we
Yeah.
get together at least once or twice a year for
It's
board
good.
meetings.
Yeah.
And the rule we came up with was they had to occur somewhere where you could either snowboard or surf. And so we mix in our strategy conversations about, hey, where the company is headed
Yeah.
with with runs or jumping out into the waves. So we're going to
That's
Taos
great.
next week. We'll talk strategy and hopefully get in some good turns.
You got to, man. You got to step outside the constant grind of meetings and just take yourself out for a bit. You work with your
Yeah,
partners, man, to build such a great business, but it's because your connection. Like, and we talked about to start the show. It's true. It's really true. It's the people that really shine and come together and gel and know where your strengths and leveraging Jake's strengths or Chris, like you guys all have that connection, and that's where you guys can build out, just continue to grow and have a great presence with each other. So I really appreciate you jumping on, man. We'll drop your contact info. And all the shows that you mentioned, I'm sure it's easy to book some time with you guys ahead
sure is.
for whether it's a demo or just a meeting at any of these upcoming shows. But I really appreciate you coming on today, brother. Tom, you're such a good dude. And, I'll get to see you out at LeadsCon, I think, or hopefully on your road show when you guys come out to Cali.
That's absolutely. We will definitely.